Everyone, this is not a drill. Schmigadoon is finally back. Welcome to Teacup for One. My name is Matt and I have 2 degrees, and today we are doing another Teacup for One trailer review and analysis because you keep watching them, so I guess I'm gonna keep doing them. And this isn't for a Disney movie. This is for something equally, if not more exciting. Actually, no, I don't want to say that. Nothing's more exciting than Haunted Mansion. But this is for Season 2 of Apple TV's original series, Schmigadoon, which I guess now is called Schmicago? I don't know. So if you're not caught up, Schmigadoon was this incredible show that premiered on Apple TV back in 2021. The premise is that 2 doctors from like contemporary New York City fall into this alternate reality, this alternate parallel dimension where everything is like a Rodgers and Hammerstein musical. If you're a musical theater nerd like myself and somebody who appreciates good comedy also like myself, this show was a niche dream come true. It only had 6 episodes. I feel like the last 2 or 3 episodes felt a little rushed, but no matter, because we're getting more. The trailer for Season 2 of Schmigadoon, aka Schmicago, is here, and we're gonna talk about it. But first, 2 orders of business. First, if you're watching this video and if you like musicals, give the video a thumbs up. Just give it a like, please. Give it a like. Like, subscribe too if you want, but just like the video. It helps the algorithm. It helps me. Just do it. Thank you. And number 2, a quick shout out to today's video sponsor, me! The Teacup for One t-shirt t-shop is now available on Etsy, where you can get parody t-shirts inspired by your favorite fandoms from theater to theme parks. You can even grab this wonderful Shakespearean-inspired Is It Me? Am I the Drama shirt? Because Shakespeare probably said that, among some other great theater shirts. So, yeah, check it out. But anyway, first, let's check out this trailer. Here we go.
That's the foot.
Okay, first things first, I know we're just a couple seconds in, and if this is your first time watching one of my trailer review videos, just a word of warning, we're going to be stopping and starting a lot. So I recommend watch the trailer on your own first, then come back here to hear my review, and also like the video while you're at it. So, I know we're only a few seconds in, but first thing, Josh and Melissa are clearly back to their normal lives, which I think is interesting because the way that Schmigadoon Season 1 ended was extremely ambiguous. Yes, Season 1 ended with this entire idea that Josh and Melissa had to accept each other as their true loves, hold hands, and then cross the bridge, and that should get them home, but it ended just with them holding hands and then cut to credits. So I didn't know if they were stuck in Schmigadoon, if this series was going to open with them turning around and suddenly they were in Schmicago, but pretty clear, they made their way home. So, I enjoy that. There's also this cool, like, rhythmic thing going on with all of the diegetic sounds, which is very Rob Marshall's Chicago. That's really hard to say. Rob Marshall's Chicago. Try to say it at home. Rob Marshall's Chicago. Rob Marshall's Chicago. So those sounds coming together and forming this rhythmic beat, very opening of Cell Block Tango, and it's just sort of foreshadowing where we're about to go, which is Schmicago, obviously. Let's keep watching.
Any pain? What's wrong?
That's the foot.
Feels like we should be happier.
Okay, so I've watched this trailer a bunch of times. I just want to draw attention to that one clip when Josh asks what's wrong and they're having a picnic, because it's obvious what's going on. Like, they made their way back to their normal lives. They're tired with the mundane quality of it. And I just think it's so funny that they're trying to rekindle the magic of Schmigadoon by having a picnic, but it's not working because it's real life and picnics in real life suck. So that's just really funny. Let's keep watching.
Any pain?
I want Schmigadoon. Happy people and bright colors.
Schmigadoon, where are you?
Maybe it's one of those places that you only go once and never return.
Oh, like
Soul Cycle. Okay, so I just think it's equally funny that they kept the clothes from Schmigadoon. So again, it's obvious what the setup is. They're back home. They've accepted each other as their true loves, and that's all well and good. But now they're just kind of out of the honeymoon phase, and they're bored. They're looking to, like, rekindle that spark in their relationship, which is kind of a perfect parallel to the eras of musical theater that we're moving in between, because now they are no longer in a place in their relationship that's appropriate for Schmigadoon. Now they are in
Schmicago?
Welcome to Schmicago.
And just like that, we are in the next era of musical theater. We have moved on from Golden Age into, I don't actually know what the technical term is for the next era of musical theater, because, like, this is the thing. Defining eras in a genre is so complicated, especially when it comes to musical theater, because I was taught genre evolution in one specific way, but like I have friends who studied musical theater, and they were specifically taught that there's only two eras. There's Golden Age, and then there's Contemporary. But if you look on Wikipedia, which is like my go-to source for most things, Wikipedia says there's Golden Age, Post-Golden Age, Pre-Contemporary, and then Contemporary, and then whatever the bleep we're in now. But for the purposes of this video and any subsequent Schmigadoon / Schmicago videos I might do, I'm going to refer to this as the revisionist era of musical theater, because that was how I was taught genres in film school, and it makes sense to me. You have like 4 stages of a genre. You have the classical or the Golden Age era, which is when the genre is new and it's at its peak and all the like conventions are being set. Then that gradually evolves into the revisionist era, where artists are starting to call into question and comment on the conventions that were set in the Golden Age / classical era, which, so anyway, I feel like revisionist is just a good term, and we're going to stick with that. So, we are now in the revisionist era of musical theater, the 1960s / 70s / maybe kind of the 80s, but I didn't see any Phantom, so I'm going to say 60s, 70s. The musicals of the 1960s and the 1970s started to explore darker themes as well as different musical styles, and just this very brief clip is already giving us references to some of the artists that helped define that era. First, the new name of the town, Schmicago, which is a clear reference to the musical Chicago by songwriting team Kander and Ebb. They're also the songwriting team that gave us Cabaret as well as Kiss of the Spider-Woman, and a big part of their work was using flashy spectacle to explore darker themes like murder and war. Next, we have all those beautiful disembodied white gloves surrounding Titus Burgess. This is a very clear reference to the original Broadway production of Pippin by Stephen Schwartz, a musical that uses spectacle to explore darker themes like murder and war. And the original Broadway productions of both Chicago and Pippin were directed and choreographed by Bob Fosse, the man who kind of single-handedly redefined Broadway choreography by making it subtler, sexier, and adding jazz hands. Jazz hands! Let's keep watching.
This is very different.
Now our heroes enter the city of Schmicago.
Who is he talking to?
At one point, a lot of musicals had narrators.
At one point, a lot of musicals had narrators.
See? So, I didn't do the research to back up this bold statement whatsoever, but I don't think narrators were exclusive to this era. Like, I'm pretty sure narrators existed in musicals or in theater prior to this. Why am I saying I'm sure? Like, they did. But I think the defining characteristic of this era and how narrators played a part is that this is when the line started to blur between a narrator being an objective observer and an active participant in the action. Again, I barely did the research, but I think this trend started in 1960s with the character of El Gallo in The Fantastics. Yes, he was a character in the play, but he also stepped out of the action to directly address the audience and to comment on what was happening, and he also had a hand in guiding the dramatic action. And moving forward beyond The Fantastics, we had variations of that type of character in a bunch of shows, like the MC in Cabaret, the narrator in Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, Che Guevara in Evita, Judas in Jesus Christ Superstar, but probably most notable is the leading player in Pippin, who is very clearly the character that Titus is meant to be embodying here. I mean, come on, he's surrounded by white gloves. So, with that in mind, listen to this next line.
Sorry, go ahead.
Really? Do I have your permission?
Do I have your permission? See, he's calling out the characters for disrupting his narration, and that is very much in line with the role of the leading player in Pippin, and it is fascinating when you think about what that implies for Titus's role in the world of Schmigadoon. The brilliant and disturbing thing about the leading player in Pippin is that he's not just telling the story. You think he's just telling the story, especially in the first act, but as the musical progresses, you slowly realize that, yeah, he's not just telling the story, he is actively trying to control it. And the show ends, pretty much, when one of the characters, Pippin, defies the instruction or the command of the leading player. Spoiler alert, the leading player tells him to kill himself on stage. Pippin's like, I'm not going to do that. And then the leading player's like, okay, well then I guess the show is over. It's a little bit more complicated than that, but not really. So the reason I'm so fascinated by Titus's character is because I think he might be the first person in the world of Schmigadoon / Schmicago that is aware that he's in a world that is musical theater. You know, I always felt in season 1 that there was some kind of omnipotent, all-knowing force behind what this world was. I thought it was the damn Leprechaun, but then that plot point didn't go anywhere, so hopefully it's Titus. Anyway, let's watch more.
Do I have your permission?
Uh-oh. He's peppery.
Clearly, we're in the next era of musicals here.
Do we shock you?
Do we shock you? You know what shocks me? Dove Cameron in that clip. Now, there is a lot going on in those few seconds. We're getting a lot of fun visual references to like Cabaret, Chicago, as well as a little bit of Sweet Charity, more so in the music, like that whole "Do we shock you?" That thing is very big spender. If you're watching this video, you knew that. I don't need to hit you over the head with it. But yeah, you know what shocks me? Dove Cameron playing a role that is very different from her role in season 1. So in season 1, I think her character's name was Betsy. She was just the quintessential Rodgers and Hammerstein, like, airhead ingenue. Now, she is going full, like, Sally Bowles, Velma Kelly. According to an interview I watched with her on the Today Show, she is, in fact, playing a brand new character named Jenny Banks. And so I think that's just fascinating, because it means that all of the characters from season 1 of Schmigadoon are no more. Yes, almost the entire core cast is returning, but they are seemingly completely new people. So that's something we're going to see a lot throughout the rest of the trailer. We are going to get to see the new characters that our favorite cast members from season 1 are returning to play. Narratively, I have no idea what that means. I don't know if we're just supposed to accept that these are totally new human beings, if there's some kind of evolution from who these characters were in season 1. I don't know. I don't know. And you know what? Because those are the answers I want, the show's probably not going to give them to me. But as long as there's a toe tapping number that I can listen to on repeat while I'm at work, I'm happy. Let's watch more.
These musicals are darker, with more sex. Oh, yay. And violence.
Alright, so there it is. A fresh look at most of the returning cast members in their brand new roles. So yeah, we have Dove Cameron as the Sally Bowles classic Fosse girl. We also have our first look at Ariana DeBose in her brand new role as the MC. So Ariana DeBose is going full Joel Grey from Cabaret. That is not something I would have suspected whatsoever, but it is so weirdly perfect, and she's gonna be so good. Like, give her another Oscar. I know that's not how it works, but it should be. But the biggest surprise and biggest thrill for me in this short sequence was seeing the brand new roles for Kristen Chenoweth and Alan Cumming, who are so clearly playing the 1970s versions of Mrs. Lovett and Sweeney Todd. And this is really freaking exciting for a bunch of reasons. The first is that going into season 2 of Schmigadoon, I thought that this was just going to be the Bob Fosse season. I thought it was going to be all Chicago cabaret inspired, but they are truly going for it for like all the musicals, as different as they were, that started to come out during this era, like Sondheim's Sweeney Todd. So we are going to get some Sondheim parodies, some Sondheim influence, and I am here for it. But also, pairing those two together, Kristen Chenoweth and Alan Cumming, it's a stroke of genius. If anyone saw the 1999 made-for-TV movie version of Annie directed by Rob Marshall, and I know that's very niche, but if you're watching this video, you know the movie I'm talking about. You know that those two have insane chemistry. In real life, they're pretty good friends. Like, they just work off of each other so well. Individually, they are so suited to those archetypes and those types of roles, and together, they will be a force to be reckoned with, and I think they're gonna steal the show. Let's watch more.
Oh, you gotta be kidding me.
Okay, I just had to freeze frame here. Actually, this is such a quick moment, I had to pause the trailer the first time to make sure that I caught the Easter eggs, because I knew there were going to be a bunch, and, well, there were two. So, here we go. First of all, we have the Kander Absinthe Cafe. I already mentioned them. This is a very clear nod to Kander and Ebb. But look at the building next to it. Herman's Hummable Tunes. Sure, maybe this is a reference to American composer Jerry Herman. But, you know the funny thing about Herman? There's nothing funny about Herman. Let's keep watching.
How are we supposed to make a happy ending here? These musicals don't have happy endings.
All right. So, a few things to unpack there. We get the very obvious visual reference to a chorus line where we have the people on stage in a chorus line holding their headshots over their faces. I could be totally off here, but my instincts are telling me that there's not going to be a huge chorus line influence on the overall narrative of Season 2. I think it's just going to be a fun little visual in-joke, the extent of which might just be what we saw in the trailer. I always appreciate a good chorus line reference. But you want to know what I really liked? Also, fun story, this is what Disney basically did to my headshot the last time I auditioned for them. But you know what I really enjoyed? Was this clip. Because look. It is a bunch of kids wreaking havoc in what I can only assume is an orphanage, which means that they are smashing together two iconic musicals, Oliver and Annie. And look at that portrait in the background. Look at it. That is Kristen Chenoweth's character, Miss Coldwell, which means Chenoweth is playing a weird hybrid of Miss Hannigan from Annie and Mrs. Lovett from Sweeney Todd. As if her character couldn't get any better. And I wonder what the implications are there. Like, are her and Alan Cumming going to kill the kids and put them into pies? I don't know, but I'm excited to find out. Let's watch more.
Sounds like someone needs a lesson in the power of happiness. Who wants to get naked?
So again, this trailer continues to surprise me. Because again, I was convinced that Season 2 of this show was just going to be the Bob Fosse season. I forgot how different the musicals were that started to emerge in the 70s. And like, the Stephen Sondheim thing, I felt like that kind of meshed with the world that we were already creating. But this is just a total 180 from what I thought we would see in Schmicago. And we have now Aaron Tveit? Aaron. We got Aaron back, playing the quintessential 1970s musical theater hippie. So we have this beautiful hybrid of Godspell and hair, and it just made me so happy that he had Victor Garber's afro from Godspell. So anyway, I don't think any of the characters are going to get naked, but I think we can count on having some really fun music in this part of the show. Let's keep watching.
What I need is a lawyer.
Once I've worked my magic, no jury will ever convict your hubby, even if he kills again.
Josh didn't do it.
She is back. Jane Krakowski is back with a vengeance. One of my gripes with Season 1 of Schmigadoon was that Jane Krakowski was criminally underused. And yes, before you come for me in the comments, I know they shot the show during lockdown, they shot the show during the pandemic, there were things in place, blah, 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 etc., etc. I know the real life reasons for it, but that doesn't negate the fact that more Jane Krakowski is always better. And just based on this little snippet, I feel like she's going to play a much more prominent, involved character, as opposed to just a glorified cameo, and I am here for it. I think we're also getting a very important look at what I'm assuming is going to be the main conflict of this season, which is that Josh is wrongly convicted for murder and Melissa has to get him off the hook. So it's pretty well the plot of Schmicago. But the thing that I think is really cool here is that they're like inverting the roles. It's a total role reversal from what we saw in Schmicago. Because of course in Schmicago, it's about a husband hiring a male lawyer to get his wife off the hook for murder, and now we are seeing a wife hiring a female lawyer to get her husband off the hook for murder. So it's just like they're doing this cool revisionist take on a revisionist musical. Is that meta? I think so. It might not actually be meta. More trailer. What are these two doing? Are they the villains? I think they might be the villains. Did I just indirectly quote my shirt? Are they the drama? Now listen, I sincerely doubt that Schmigadoon Season 2 is actually going to throw a Nazi character into the mix, because yes, it's a satire, but like, there are certain lines, and I feel like that's not one that this show is going to be crossing and exploring in full. But I do think Jaime's character here is some kind of militaristic antagonist or villain. Anyway, I think there's a lot of directions that this couple can go in. They're also sort of evoking a feeling of that older couple in Cabaret, the stage musical. I can't remember if they're in the movie. So yeah, there's a lot of directions that these two can go in. I think they're both fabulous performers, and Anne Harada, no matter what she does, she's going to be hilarious. Let's watch on. Okay, we've already seen and talked about most of these cast members. We're just going to scrub on through to the part that's important. Right there! Those two. Patrick Page and Martin Short. One returning cast member, one brand new cast member, both of them exhilarating additions to the cast for season 2. Patrick Page. I mean, I overanalyze everything, and even this clip is too short for me to even dig into anything that he could be doing in this show. I don't know what his character is going to be, but it doesn't matter because it's Patrick frickin' Page. He sings like this and he talks like this. He has this imposing presence to him, but I also feel like he has this biting, dark sense of humor that is so appropriate for the direction that seemingly season 2 of Schmigadoon is going in. And then we've got Martin Short back as that leprechaun that made me so angry in season 1. Because why you just have a character show up at the beginning to sing what this magical world is and to just dangle a little bit of exposition in front of you before disappearing and never coming back and never resolving anything. He was like the one character that seemed to have some kind of omnipotent understanding of the rules of this parallel musical theater dimension. I, as an audience member, wanted answers. The Leprechaun didn't come back to give them to me. So, I'm hoping in season 2 the Leprechaun will come back to give them to me. Oh yeah, and he's played by Martin Short, and we love him. So more Martin Short. Good. Keep watching.
Sounds like another wild night in Schmicago. You two want a girl?
You need my help to answer that question?
No, thank you.
And Harada. I have no idea what she's going to do in season 2, but I already love it. Okay, so overall closing thoughts. I'm just so happy that Schmigadoon is coming back for a second season. I will admit I'm a little on the fence because I looked into it and it seems like once again there are only going to be 6 episodes of season 2. And one of my biggest gripes with season 1 was that the last 2 or 3 episodes felt extremely rushed at the detriment of the storytelling and the character development, and it made me really angry. Okay, it didn't make me really angry, but like it made me sympathize with Game of Thrones fans. I feel that with the success of season 1, Apple knows at this point that there is an audience and a market for a season 2, so I would have thought that they would have given them the budget for an extra 1 or 2 episodes to make it an 8-episode arc. Maybe they did, maybe they offered it up, and if I want to be optimistic, maybe the scenario is just that the showrunner decided we only need 6 episodes to tell the story we're going to tell. I want to believe that's it, and I want to believe that we're not going to feel rushed in the last chunk of the series again. Having watched the trailer a bunch of times, I'm not concerned about the comedy. I feel like the humor that made season 1 so special is going to be there in spades. I do feel like we might not get music that's as good as we had in season 1. You know, from watching the trailer for season 1, Schmigadoon, the title song, was such an earworm, I already knew it before I even watched an episode of the show. Here, the music is fine, and it is evocative and representative of what was coming out of that era, but I just feel like it's not as toe-tapping, and not something that I'll be listening to during my workday. But of course, season 1 was working with material that just, in its nature, was easier to create toe-tapping numbers, because the whole point of Rodgers and Hammerstein era Golden Age musicals was for the songs to be super catchy and earworms. And then when we moved into the revisionist era, that's when like the songwriters started to be a little bit more experimental. That's when we started getting the rock musical. That's when we started getting Sondheim doing his crazy like okay, that's Sunday in the Park with George, not the 70s, but still. So yeah, I think the comedy will be there. I'm not sure if the music will be as good, but I'm excited for it nonetheless. And with that, friends, this concludes yet another episode of Teacup for One. Let me know in the comment section down below, are you excited for Schmigadoon Season 2, and which musical from the 1960s or 1970s is your favorite? And if you want to be the first to know when I release more videos talking about musical theater, Disney, Shakespeare, Funko Pops, cats, and apparently movie trailer reviews like every other week, make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't subscribed already. And if you haven't subscribed already, it is so easy. All you have to do is click on my face. Thanks for joining me again today, everyone. My name is Matt, and I have 2 degrees, and that's the Teacup for One. Schmicago!